Good morning, kind Cavaliers. This is Mr. Holly again. This is the video for Monday, May 4th, 2020. Today I'm going to teach you some things about two-dimensional and three-dimensional shapes for math, geometry, and there's also a science experiment that I'm going to discuss that will have more information in your packet. Just a reminder, if your parents were not able to pick up the packet last Wednesday, that is in the mail to your house. You should hopefully receive it sometime this week. So just work on the science experiment as soon as you get the packet in the mail if your parents weren't able to pick it up. The main thing I want to talk about today with two-dimensional and three-dimensional shapes is describing to you exactly what they are. The two-dimensional shapes, I have this poster here. The two-dimensional shapes are the ones that have only height, length, and width. Length and width. Two-dimensional shapes have only length and width. These are the ones that hopefully your kindergarten and first grade teachers already went over with you in math. Shapes like a square, a rectangle, circle, oval, triangle. And then some of the more fancy ones, the ones with many more sides, five-sided shape like a pentagon, a six-sided shape like a hexagon, or an eight-sided shape like an octagon. The way I always remember that one is to remember that an octopus has 8 tentacles. So an octagon has 8 sides. That's the way I always remembered that one. Now, three-dimensional shapes. Three-dimensional shapes are the solid figures that have length, width, and they also have height. So unlike these ones that we can cut out of paper, the three-dimensional shapes are the ones that actually have thickness and depth. A good example, I have some examples here. There's a rectangular prism. Here's an example of a three-dimensional shape, a pyramid. This one is a triangular pyramid because its base is in the shape of a triangle. Here's an example of a cone. I always remember the cone by doing this and saying, well, it looks like I could put ice cream in here. That's how I remember the cone. Another three-dimensional shape would be the cylinder. I always remember the cylinder to be the one that looks like a can. Cylinder. And I should have, here we go. Here is a cube. The difference between a cube and a rectangular prism is that on a cube, all of the faces are squares. Over here. All of the faces are squares, so all of the sides are the same length. You can see on this one, this one has longer sides than this one. This is a rectangular prism. This is a cube. So your activity in your math today, in your packet, is to go through your house and try to find objects first that are two-dimensional. Draw a picture of them, write their names. So you have a sheet to do this on in your packet. And then also, when you're done with that, go through your house and see if you can find any examples of the three-dimensional solid figures. Okay? So when I think back to the map that I made last week of my dining room, in the middle of that map, I drew my dining room table that I'm sitting at right now. Well, from above, that looks like a circle. So I could write down dining room tabletop and draw a picture of a circle. So just go through your house, see what you can find. I'm looking right now across from here, and I see the electric plug. that's in the wall. And the plate for that is in the shape of a rectangle. So that could be something I could add to my shapes search. The three-dimensional objects, the solid figures, there was one I didn't mention because this kit that I have right now doesn't have an example of it. But anything that's in the shape of a ball is called a sphere. Let's see if I can pull this up a little higher for you. You can see this one is called a sphere. So if you have anything in your house that looks like a ball, it could be a ball, it could be like a cat toy or a toy for your dog, you'd call that a sphere. Most cans, canned food, cans of drink, like soda, those look like cylinders. Any box that is closed up would look like a rectangular prism. So I'm looking at my shelves right now, and this is the box that my headphones came in. And I can see that this box has rectangular faces all around it, some bigger than others. This would be a good example of a rectangular prism. So again, I'll show the poster. The two-dimensional shapes are the ones that you can draw on paper, even cut out of paper. They only have length and width. Squares, rectangles, circles, ovals, octagons, hexagons, pentagons, and triangles. The three-dimensional shapes are the solid figures. They have length and width, but they also have height, thickness. You can hold them in your hand. The main examples of those are cubes. Some games and toys are in the shapes of cubes. Spheres, the ball shape. Cylinders, cones, rectangular prisms, boxes. A lot of boxes are this shape. Pyramid, that one's possibly going to be the hard one. Depends on what kind of decorations your families have sitting on like knickknack shelves and things like that. There might be something in the shape of a pyramid. I'll be honest with you, I really doubt I have anything in my home that's the shape of a pyramid. So that one might be the hard one to find. Just kind of look around and see what you can see. Make sure when you're doing your geometry shape hunt for both two-dimensional and three-dimensional, don't grab at anything that you're not allowed to by your parents, okay? If you want to look at something closer, especially if it's on like mom's shelf that she has her decorations or in like a cabinet of some sort, ask first, okay? I know we want to do our schoolwork, but ask to touch things, especially if you know your parents have been collecting something or something like that. So two-dimensional and three-dimensional shapes is the math topic that we're going to be starting now. So we are starting some new learning. Remember, if you have questions, you can have your parents contact me through my Google Voice, through email, through Class Dojo, and I'll either talk to you or we can even set up an individual Zoom meeting. Okay? Now, the science experiment that they want you to try. Your science, we are learning about germs, how to protect ourselves from germs, and things like that. There's 2 mystery science videos that you can watch. The science experiment, they want you to, in your packet, you will have 2 Ziploc bags. One will already be labeled for you that says clean, and the other one will say dirty. Here's what that means. You need 2 pieces of bread. I suggest take it out of a loaf that's old because you're not going to be able to eat these when you're done with the experiment. Okay? So if you have a loaf of bread that's been sitting around the house and your parents are kind of, well, we don't know, it's about to go stale, use that bread first. Don't go into a completely new loaf. Okay? One of the pieces of bread, you want your hands to be dirty and you want to touch the piece of bread. Touch it all over before you stick it inside the bag. You're going to put that one inside the dirty bag. Now, if you're like me, I've been keeping my hands really clean lately. I've been washing my hands a lot and hand sanitizing a lot just because of the situation we're in. One of the easiest ways to just dirty your hands without going outside and making them actually dirty with dirt, go around and touch all the doorknobs in the house. Just touch the doorknobs, maybe touch the TV remote. Those are the things that we only usually clean occasionally, so those are usually the dirtiest things because we constantly touch them to get into our rooms. So that will get the germs back on your hands again for a little while. And you'll be safe because then you'll wash your hands again. Okay? So that's a way to just get some germs on your hand if your hands are freshly clean. For the clean bag, you want to go wash your hands with warm soap, warm water and soap. Get them nice and clean, and then touch the bread and put it inside the bag. What you're going to do is you're going to be a scientist, and you're going to observe for the next week or two. Just leave the bread sitting in the bag and just watch what happens. And as you start noticing changes, write down what you see, as detailed as you can be. So if you notice there's like a black spot that's starting to form on one of the pieces of bread, write that down. If you pick it up and touch it and you feel that the bread is starting to feel stiff, like it's getting stale, mention that. And start seeing if there's a difference between the clean slice and the dirty slice. Which one looks like it might be changing first, things like that. And just be a scientist about it. And when you're all done, if you want to snap a picture of your observations and send them to me, I'd love to see what you wrote down and what's happening with yours. Okay? So again, if you have questions, let me know. And again, if you did not get your packet yet, it's in the mail. It's on the way. Mrs. Coates said she mailed those out last Friday. I have been told that the mail is going a little slow right now, so you might not see your packet in the mail until maybe this Friday. Sometimes it takes a full week. So it should be on the way. Do what you can, and then work on it when you get it. And if you have questions, please, I'm here. Let me know. Okay? All right. So science experiment about germs. See how germs can affect the bread. Start doing your shape hunts for the geometric shapes, the two-dimensional and three-dimensional. Start with the Start with the two-dimensional first, because those should be the shapes that we have some experience with from kindergarten and first grade. And once you get that search hunt done, go through and try to find your three-dimensional shapes. See if you can locate those. If you need a reminder about those, there is a sheet in the packet. And also there's a short YouTube video that there's a link to that talks about two-dimensional and three-dimensional shapes also. That's located on my Week at a Glance, the electronic document. All right. The other thing I wanted to do today is I only read once last week. I'll probably read once every week. So let me go get the book and I will read another chapter of The Secrets of Dream. Secrets of Droon. This is special edition number 1, The Magic Escapes, and now it's in our world. We're about to start Chapter 9. Chapter 9 is titled, What's Under the Fortress? And again, it shows a picture of all these smokestacks and gears and machinery parts. We'll have to see what's important about that picture when I read this chapter. But I do know it's been a week since I read, so any big-time reader should always go back and reread where they left off to help remember what happened the last time and help remind us what's going on in the book. Well, said the young wizard, just before the goblins cornered me, I discovered Salamander's secret. I know how she has become so powerful and so feared. How? Asked Eric. Galen stepped down the passage to the next tunnel. He looked both ways. You'll understand better if I show you, he said. And judging by how long I've been here, it must be nearly dawn, so we need to hurry. Follow me. The boy wizard scampered down the passage. The kids looked at one another. I guess we follow him? Asked Julie. I guess we do, said Kia. A moment later, Eric, Kia, Neil, Julie, and Max all raced into the passage after the young wizard, Galen Nobeard. Chapter 9. What's Under the Fortress? The small band wormed its way up through the lower levels of Salamander's fortress. At every turn, they heard the echo of goblins howling. That noise is driving me nuts, said Neil, holding his stomach. I think I can understand some of what they're moaning about, and believe me, it's not good. Salamandra controls their minds, said Galen, pausing a moment, looking both ways, then heading on again. Yurik told us a little about Salamandra, said Kia, but we didn't have time to hear it all. From what my mother could discover in early histories of the world, Galen said, darting up a narrow set of stairs, there was a city long ago called Pesh. It was one of the earliest cities on earth, and one of its worst. Its princess was called Salamandra, a young and very wicked sorceress. Stories say she gained power by stealing it from others. Not a nice person, said Julie. No, said Galen. Was she the great-great-grandmother of this one? Asked Julie. Because this princess looks pretty young. The boy paused and turned at the top of the stairs. It's the same person, he said. What? Said Eric. She can't be that old. She looks like a teenager. She is but just a few years older than me, said Galen. Salamander devised a way to make the city of Pesh fly through time. It steals magic from wherever it lands, then moves on to the next place in time. Fly through time? Said Eric. Yes, whispered the voice of Spar in Eric's head. Through time, right to where the coiled viper is hidden. And you, Eric, will help me. You must. Eric's forehead throbbed. You again? I won't help you. But Salamandra is... Ah! The voice faded. Spar? Said Eric. What's happening? There was no answer. Max was trembling. Excuse me, my master-to-be. Are you saying that Salamandra has brought Pesh all of this out of the past? Galen nodded slowly. And if Spar has become as wicked as you say, then Pesh is the very worst place for him to be, because from here he can go anywhere, anytime. As they ascended through the passages, the walls around them grew hot. The floor thundered suddenly. Then came the sound of loud hammering. What's going on? Asked Neil. You'll see. Galen led them through one twisting passage after another, until they came to an opening onto a narrow ledge. The ledge overlooked a deep pit. Shh, Plumes of hot vapor hissed up in the clouds from the bottom. Max waved away the mist and, clutching Neil and Julie, looked over the edge. "Oh my! Holy cow," said Eric. "What is that?" What stood below them was a giant machine. Blam, chunka chunka blam blam. Sss. Huge hammers rose and fell with a thundering noise. Giant rods pumped, great open pipes plumed clouds of steam. Wheels turned, chains clattered, and gears ground noisily. "What is it for?" asked Kia. "What does it do?" Galen tried to find the right words. "This machine creates a portal, a sort of door through time. Soon it will move Pesh to a new time and place, to steal magic from there, too." "Holy moly, she's got her own personal time machine!" exclaimed Neil. "Exactly," said the wizard. Sss! Another cloud of steam puffed up, and the machine seemed to work a little faster. "Pesh landed here as an island exactly a year ago," said Galen. "Salamandra sent her goblins out to collect all the magic they could find. Now, after a year of stealing, they have come back. Pesh's next stop, whenever and wherever that is, will suffer even worse." The kids peered down into the noisy pit. "So, this is why there's almost no magic left in our world?" asked Julie. Kia took a deep breath. "How can we stop such a huge machine?" Galen grinned at his new friends, laced his fingers together, cracked his knuckles, took a deep breath, and said, "Well, that's just the thing about machines, you know. They break down." Eric glanced at the young wizard. "Let me guess. You're going to help it along a bit?" "Oh, just a bit," said Galen. "Now, does anybody want to volunteer to help me shut down this time machine?" "I will," Max chirped loudly. "I want to save our friend's wonderful world and my own. Besides, this is our first adventure together. We must get to know each other." "Adventure?" said Galen, raising his eyebrows. "You just said the magic word." "Oh, if only my old master were here to see this," said Max. Young Galen smiled. "If what you say is true, then I guess I was here to see this. Everyone ready? Then here we go!" With a running start, the young wizard and his new spider troll friend leaped together into the grinding, thumping, hissing, thundering pit. "Good luck!" Kia called down to them. An instant later, a puff of steam rose up, and Galen and Max were lost in the mists of the giant machine. Julie bit her lip. "I sure hope they make it." "They better," said Eric. "The future of both worlds depends on them." "Or on us if they don't succeed," said Kia. Neil raised his hand. "What happens if Galen and Max actually do bust up that hunk of junk? I mean, will Pesh, self-destruct?" Everyone looked at one another. "Uh-oh," said Eric. "We'd better hurry up and find Spar." Here's a picture of young Galen and Max jumping into the pit where all the machine parts are, getting ready to try to stop it from working. "But how?" asked Julie. "The place is swarming with goblins. They're not going to just let us march into Salamander's icky old throne room. Anyone have any ideas?" Neil made a strange face. I just have one thing to say. Rah, rah." The others stepped back. "Neil," said Kia. Uh, what I actually meant to say is, rah, rah, rah." Neil blinked, he frowned, he twitched, he shivered, and then he began to change. His face grew long, his skin turned a sickly shade of green, And his nose, the one that was so good at sniffing pies and other foods, stretched into a snout, long and bumpy and tipped with whiskers. With one great final shudder, ploink, Neil had become a goblin. Chapter 10 is titled A Riddle Among Riddles. And as you can see, the little picture, I have a feeling that's what Neil looks like now, changed into a goblin. We'll have to see what happens with that the next time we read, and whether Galen and Max are able to stop the machine from working. All right, so we're almost done with today's video. Just a couple quick reminders. The main things this week are remembering the difference between 2D and 3D shapes. The 2D shapes are the ones that we can cut out of paper. They have only length and width. Three-dimensional shapes have 3 dimensions, length, width, and height. Those are the objects that we can actually hold in our hand and have thickness. So this is an example of a rectangular prism. This is an example of a cylinder. Here's an example of a cube. Here's an example of a cone. Here's an example of a triangular pyramid. The 2-dimensional shapes, again, are the ones that you know some about from kindergarten and first grade. Squares, rectangles, circles, triangles, pentagons, hexagons, octagons, even ovals. And there are others. So do your shape hunt at home. And remember then also to do your science experiment with the 2 pieces of bread. We want you to touch one with dirty hands, and then we want you to touch the other with clean hands. And then just be a scientist and then observe how they change. See if there's a difference between the two. Excuse me. One thing I want you to keep an ear out or an eye out for is I'm thinking about starting kind of like a 15 to 20 minute weekly Zoom meeting where we can all just kind of get together and chat. I'm still thinking about a name for it and what time would work best. So just tell your parents to keep an eye out on Class Dojo and their emails, and I will send you more information about times and how to link to the Zoom meetings and things like that. Would like to see all your faces instead of just doing all these pre-recorded ones. So I was thinking maybe just like a 15-minute snack time where maybe I share part of a story or we just kind of chat with each other and say hi to each other. So once I can work out what I think would be the best time for that and things like that, I will message your parents about it. Okay? I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Stay safe, stay healthy. Go Cavs. And I miss you guys.